Hey guys, Daisan here with a new unit review. Today we're going to be looking at the new Naswick Fest unit, Enri. So Enri is a power enhancer type. She has 8,196 HP, 8,085 attack at max intimacy, and then defense at 2,829 and speed at 421. So stat wise, she has a really high attack stat for an enhancer, up there kind of with Naswick 1 in like the 8,000 range. And then same thing with her HP is also very high at the 8,000 range, and her speed is 421, which is pretty good. The issue with this is that since she has such a good stat spread, they must have dinged her somewhere, and they picked defense, making her really thin like paper at only 2,800, which is on a really low side. Besides that, her weaknesses and resistances are pretty standard for units, minus 50, minus 50, plus 25, plus 25. So let's get right into her skills. Her first skill is a 5 MP skill that gives the party physical damage immune for 1 stack and 100% defense. If you were to compare it to other units, there's one other unit in the game that I would like to talk about that does that as well, and that is the Valentine's Day Show tier. Because she also has the same skill where she gives a physical immune stack to the entire team at the same 5 MP cost, but she only gives 5% magical defense, and comparing that to the 100% buff that Enri has, that's kind of like you can clearly see which kind of won on having that skill. To be fair, she also has been out for a long time, so the Valentine's Shout tier had to fall off at one point. Her next skill is a debuff towards all enemies, lowering their attack and their crit for 3 turns. So this is pretty much the 4 MP debuff to attack. So normally for 50% attack, we don't have many units that do that at an AoE standard, because normally when we see that, it's on a single target. So that's things like Cocytus, not the regular Cocytus, but the red Cocytus. And then we also have Summer Shizu, who does the same thing of the 50% attack cut. But this is AoE. The only downside is it does no damage, and it doesn't lower any of the other stats as well. Because normally for AoE debuffs, we have lowering defense and lowering speed, like Debuff and Naswick 1 would do. Besides that, lower critical might come in useful in the future. But besides that, until then, this is kind of expensive, but it's kind of it's a decent buff overall. Then her last skill is a 6 MP AoE Nuke, which deals 4 hits of 44 physical damage to enemies. So then we can also compare this skill to the Naswick Demiurge, where he also has a really high MP AoE skill. His does 140% magic to all enemies, and his is 7 MP. So if you're just doing the math, she does about 176% if you add all of her hits together for 6 MP, which you would think is better than Naswick Demi's, but their attack stats are relatively the same, but the big differences is his passives, which give him 20% magic attack and 25% magical skill damage. So adding this on top, plus his ability to access his self buff of 50% magic attack and 75% magical skill damage, gives him a higher damage ceiling than she does, because Enri does not have any way to boost up her own damage. So her passives are 50% speed and 20% overdrive gauge increase. So this leaves her at only being quite fast. I think she's within the top 3 fastest units in the game now, with her high base 421 speed and plus additional 15%. I think she's just below Philo and above Pandora's Actor. Alright, besides that, the 20% overdrive gauge increase from start of fight gives her access to her overdrive, which is 5 hits of 105% physical to 1 enemy. That's at max rank, but it's 90% at overdrive level 1, which even then is really high. So that opens up her to being kind of like a damage nuker with her 6 MP skill and her overdrive to hit large numbers. The issue is though, she has no way of kind of like accessing these super often. Being 6 MP would take you your 3rd turn before you can have it online again, and no way to amp it for yourself, so you'd have to run another buffer in your team. But the thing is, Enri would normally take the enhancer slot on a traditional team of a attacker, a tank, a healer, and an enhancer. So either you can run her as a pure debuffer, which is just cutting the enemy's attack by 50, or you could run her as a pseudo nuker by focusing more on her overdrive and her AoE skill. The thing is though, if you're looking at similar units, we can just see the Shout here is kind of fills the same enhancer role, but she only gives the shield up and doesn't do the attack cut, so that's not really good for her. So Enri does that better, but if we look at her other categories besides the first skill, as a debuffer, we can look at Albedo. Also for 4 MP, she does 30%, so that's 20 less attack down. But she also lowers the defense and speed. That's really useful because in future content that will come out, we keep getting faster and faster units. So just lowering their speed by 35% will kind of keep everyone acting before the enemies again. So that's a big minus for Enri. The only good point is the 20% attack difference is actually pretty big in harder content. It's just that without the defense down, you still take a bit longer to chip away at the enemies, and the ideal is the faster you clear one enemy in a multi-wave fight, the better, because if there's 4 enemies and you debuff all of them, that min-maxes your debuffs, so that you're getting the most value out of it, compared to Pandora's Actor only being able to debuff 1 unit. But then if you debuff 4, you still want to kill them quickly, because the longer 4 enemies are on the field, the higher chance they are of just wrecking your entire team, tank withholding, or even threatening your tank. So just maybe a bit of a different AoE debuff than traditional ones like Debuff, Nazarick Ides, and Albedo. But I still say the speed is a big factor, the defense is very helpful, and I think that just the attack alone isn't going to make her super great. Besides that, as a nuker, she also, I'd say, be worse than Nazarick Demiurge, and pure numbers that she can possibly hit. It's not even like his overdrive is that bad either, being a 197% at 5 and 165 at rank 1. The ice damage is still a big single nuke. So she doesn't nuke quite as hard as the best nukers, and then she doesn't debuff as best as some of the best debuffers. But she is excelling at setting up an AoE physical wall on your team. Besides that, we could also look at a comparable unit in Origami. She's kind of fills that buffer debuffer role in the team that Enri would also take, except that she's a bit more balanced in the sense that she does have the physical defense stack, but it's only on 1 unit at a time instead of all 4. But she does that at 2 MP, which keeps it really conservative, especially if you have just 1 tank with good provoke, or even now Fumi with cover. Being able just to apply that 1 shield to him consistently while they're tanking, I think would be a bit better than spending 5 right away on the off chance that your units do get hit. She actually has a team buff compared to Enri's just debuffs, so that she can kind of boost the team with more damage and more defense, which isn't bad. And then she also has a enemy debuff for 20% defense on 5 MP. This is kind of good for general AoE farming as well, but she kind of offers kind of a debuff, a buff, and then a very specific niche buff as well. But it's honestly, you could take more preference, seeing as that Enri has 1,000 and 300 more attack. You could say I would rather have the harder hitter than the more defensive unit of the two. Overall, if you kind of just look at the tier list as it is now, she's right behind Origami. I think at this point they're kind of side by side. I would say that Enri is a bit more offensive and Origami is a bit more supportive. But yeah, I figure she's in a good spot right now until more units come out, sitting in A tier. She can be a nuker, she can be a debuffer. She's kind of jack of all trades in that sense, but not really excelling towards one of them. Besides that, thank you all for watching, and I hope you like this new style of unit review. Peace.